afternoon, everybody. Coming up on the Friday, May 21st, 2021 edition of the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty, Charlie O, Casey Freelove. NBA playoffs are going to start this weekend. We get a finality to the play-in tournament with Golden State and Memphis tonight. The Washington Wizards, the most dangerous 8th seed ever. We'll find out. We'll talk about it. The MLB season going on. Big series going on this weekend. The Dodgers, Giants, of course, my area here in the Bay Area. The Yankees and White Sox are playing this weekend. The Twins and Indians, which would have been good 2 years ago, are playing this weekend also. And the A's and Angels, which would have been good never, are playing this weekend as well, too. So a lot of baseball to talk about. We'll give you an update on the NHL playoffs. And also there's a major golf tournament going on in South Carolina, Kiswahili Island. Phil Mickelson bringing out the youth. Speaking of youth, thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube for joining us live. If you missed any of the live broadcasts, we're powered by Stable Media. You can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Apple and Spotify seem to be the best, but check it out. Look for the logo over there in the corner, and you'll see the MTMAR podcast, and you'll hear our wonderful picks, our wonderful analysis. So, Charlie, Casey, big weekend of sports. How are you, Charlie?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I want you to know I have my pick for the Stanley Cup. On my head, the Hartford Whalers will win the Stanley Cup this year. That's my hockey knowledge for you. Take it to the book.
Casey, nothing like revisionist history, huh? How are you doing?
I'm good. Spoken like a true Connecticut insurance salesman there, Chuck. Yeah, go Hartford, the Whale. See if they can get it done. And, of course, happy birthday to you, Vasu. Another year wiser. Good to be with you on your birthday.
I appreciate that. You know what? I was thinking, I said, well, who would I rather be with on my, other than hot blondes on a beach drinking Modelo's? I would, this is a kid-friendly show, believe me. But other than that, Giants-Dodgers weekend, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing friends. I'm looking forward to hopefully making it to 6 o'clock on Sunday night after the last couple of days. So we'll just go from here. From there. You can reach us Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, 4:15. Facebook Live. Let's check out the Facebook comments already. By the way, I want to thank, while I check out the comments here, thank you, Robbie. Happy birthday from Robbie. I appreciate that. I did not know I had 375 friends on Facebook, or I knew 375 people. But thank you all for taking the time to send me a birthday wish. If you're all in San Francisco tomorrow or Sunday, I can't afford to buy every one of you a drink, but thanks anyway for the Facebook notes and everything like that. So there you go. There's my little disclaimer. All right, let's get to it here. The NBA playoffs, we're looking at the Golden State Warriors, Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State losing to the Lakers. By the way, the Lakers should have beaten the Warriors by 20, in my opinion. I didn't think the Lakers played very well. Casey, you weren't on with us yesterday. I think the Lakers could have won by 20. Golden State did not play well. Curry has a tough time in that building, and they were lucky to get out of that game with a victory and not have to host Memphis. The Lakers will go on and play the Phoenix Suns, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis are back. And they're only 2.5-point underdogs, surprisingly, for the number 2 versus number 7 seed. This is not your average 7 seed for the Lakers. And then tonight, after the loss and the Memphis win against San Antonio, the Warriors are 4.5-point favorites. The total is 221. The winner of this game will get the 8th seed and move on to play in Utah. And then, of course, last night, the most dangerous 8th seed ever, the Washington Wizards. Holy cow, they boat raced the Indiana Pacers. 142 to 115, 3.5-point favorite, 237 the game total. Flew by 237, flew by 3.5. The game, Casey, was up to like 35 points at one point. What are your thoughts so far as we go into the weekend with the series being set up?
Well, let me just a quick note on the Lakers and Warriors game, because I wasn't with you yesterday. I mean, some really tenacious defense played by the Warriors in the first half. I was very impressed with their effort on the defensive end. I mean, Draymond Green was in Anthony Davis's face, making shots be altered, and I think that was the key to why it was so close at the end, because the Lakers should be able to beat the Warriors by plenty, as they've done many times this year, like the last 2 times before that game. As far as last night, look, this Wizards team is dangerous. Russell Westbrook is a game changer, 17-6 in their last 23 games. That's the only reason they're even in the playoffs. I got a friend of mine in one of our gambling groups. He bought a ticket on the Wizards to win the East at like 50 to 1, like 3 or 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago. So I bet he's clutching that one, saying, hey, man, I mean, this could be easy money, although facing the Brooklyn Nets is no easy task. But if you look at the way they got it done, look, Bradley Beal came to play. Russell Westbrook did his thing, and it wasn't much of a contest there. So I think that Washington is feeling confident. They're not scared of any team, even if they are a super team like the Nets. And the thing, which we'll talk about later, but it quickly should be on your mind, chemistry. Does chemistry matter, or the Nets just that good that they can turn it on? I know you want to focus on tonight's game. So, Charlie, look, here's my thought process, and I know we'll get picks later in the show. If I was in Reno right now, I would take last month's paycheck and just drop it on the Warriors money line. The NBA wants the Warriors to win. They're just a little bit better than the Grizz. I'm not even saying they're going to cover the 4.5, but I just don't see a way that you can deny the potential MVP of the NBA, Steph Curry, getting into a really tasty matchup, as we always call these, with the Utah Jazz. I mean, that would be one hell of an NBA series and something we would certainly look forward to. Now, as a gambler, though, Vegas set this right up to where they want to make you pause for a second, because Memphis is not a bad team. And we talk about defense and efficiency. That team has both those traits, and they've got some good players and a coach who's really in sync with his team. So, Chuck, I think we're in for a treat tonight. I don't think it's going to be, a big blowout like we had last night. I think this is going to be a much tighter game than maybe the casual fan would think. Because on paper, you're like, well, the Warriors have Steph Curry, so they should win by 50. But it's like, I don't know. Memphis has been pretty good, and they're kind of like that proverbial fly in the ointment.
Yeah, absolutely, Casey. I want to jump back to that Wizards-Pacers game for just a second. You know what? The Nets need to be very worried about what happened in that game last night, because if you look at the line, Russell Westbrook last night only 18 points. Now it was a double-double because he also had 15 assists. But what needs to make them worry about last night was Bradley Beal. Beal had 25 points in that game. Now, we know that Beal's not 100%, but Beal has come out and said, look, I've come to the conclusion that I'm never going to be 100% again. And I am just going to play through the pain. I am going to make it happen. I know what I have to do now. I know who I am. I know who I am physically, and I'm going to make it happen. And that is very scary. And I keep coming back. I mentioned it yesterday. My man Chuck Barkley said a month ago, if the Wizards get in, you need to be very, very afraid, because they are capable of winning a first-round playoff matchup. And right now, they are playing crazy basketball. And again, I told Vasu yesterday, they have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. And they're scary. They're really scary. And they won in a completely different way. Now if it had been Westbrook last night hitting 50 and having 20 assists, you'd go, well, okay. See, that's just who they are. They won in a whole different way last night. Scary. You're absolutely right about the Warriors and Grizzly game tonight. First of all, I wouldn't touch that spread with a 10-foot pole, because they have set that thing at a level to make everybody suck in on that thing. I think this is a total or a money line game tonight to bet. I really do, because that's where your best investment's going to be. I don't think it is a cakewalk for the Warriors tonight. I think the Grizzlies are going to come out. They've got something they want to say, and I think it's going to be a game that's going to be all offense, no defense, because I think the Warriors are going to get sucked in by the Grizzlies, who have no defense. I said it yesterday. I was laughing so hard at the shots of the crowd at that game where they had grit and grind t-shirts on in Memphis. They haven't been grit and grinding so long, they forgot what that means. Okay. Because that team has no grit. They have no grind. All they have is offense. And I think this is going to be a wild and woolly game full of offense tonight. And it's going to be spectacular to watch.
You think the guys on the Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies, they played last Sunday. It was a tight game until the last 4 minutes to go. Grizzlies were up in the beginning. Warriors came back, ended up having a 1-point lead, and then they got it up to 12-13 in the middle of the game, middle of the third quarter. Grizzlies came all the way back, tied it up at 91, and then Curry goes off for 9 straight, I believe, in that game, and they end up winning by 12, if I remember right. You think it's going to be wild and woolly offense, Casey? Because that was a grinded-out game on Sunday, and I thought really that Memphis was going to cover that 3.5-point spread on Sunday. And, in fact, I think they might do it again today. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think what happened on Sunday, having been there already and then going back home to play the play-in and then coming back, you don't think that's going to wear down Memphis and they're going to come in and play with Golden State? Because it'd be very interesting to see how they respond coming back. Taylor Jenkins is a pretty good coach. John Morant's there. Jaren Jackson's really good. Valanciunas is dominating on the boards. At least he did on Sunday, and he did it in the San Antonio game as well too, Casey. So I kind of think that it's going to be a grit and grind game. I kind of disagree with Charlie on that, in the sense that it's going to be, this is a playoff series, a playoff game, and you got to be able to match up on defense. And somebody's going to have to play defense at some point in this basketball season, let alone the playoffs.
Well, one note, I think the over in that Wizards game was the first over we've had out of all these rounds thus far. You're going to see a lot of unders hit. Now, I think the way Vegas has set this up, because the total opened at 226.5 for the Grizzlies and Warriors, it's now been bet down to 221.5 or 221, depending on what shop you're at. Now, if we look at the flow from the 3 games they played this year, I'm looking at combined totals here. We've got a 214, a 214, and a 219 as far as the totals in the previous 3. So they jacked that all the way up to 226 to try and get people to think that this will be a very high-scoring game. And it certainly has the potential to be. I mean, Steph Curry could go off for 12, 13 three-pointers and make this thing really lopsided. But if we go from the matchup you were just alluding to, that 113-101 win for the Warriors at Chase Center just 1 week ago, at some point, basically, and this will be the story of the playoffs as it is every playoffs, which team is going to play lockdown defense for 5 minutes in the first half and lockdown defense for 5 minutes in the second half, and that'll kind of determine where we're at heading into the fourth quarter. I must applaud Vegas. I'm giving them a golf clap. This is for Mickelson too, but I will applaud Vegas. They have done a good job setting this number. I think they've got a number where they're going to attract action because it's the only game on in town tonight. And you've got one other note here, Chuck. Memphis, they're 38-34, but surprisingly had a better road record than a home record. And that's very rare in any sport to be better on the road, 20-16 away from home. So I'm hoping from a fan perspective, and even from a betting perspective, that I'm not over watching the main event tonight, Dodgers Giants, instead of this when it gets into crunch time. I want to be, still engaged.
Yeah, and Casey, it's funny. We talked a little bit about that yesterday in relationship to baseball, because the Oakland A's are the same kind of team. They play better on the road than they do at home. Those are odd teams, and then from a wagering standpoint, they make them hard to wager on a game, because you go, now what do I do? Because that's just fast backwards of what they're supposed to do. So it does make them difficult. And you look at that last game that they played. It was a little upside down, and I don't think that they're going to let Curry just go off. I don't think they're going to let Curry just score at will. But then the question becomes, can you stop Curry if he decides he wants to score? And that's, I don't know that you can do that. When he decides he's going to do his thing, if he gets his range, and it's very seldom when he can't. If he gets his range, can you stop him?
Go ahead, Casey.
Well, I just want to get a thought from both you guys about the job that Steve Kerr has done. Obviously, we know he's one of the great coaches of modern times, and it's not just because he had Steph. And I think a year like this proves it. Vasu, I mean, you've watched a lot of Warriors games, as has Charlie. Just the way that he's worked with the pieces that he has, I think that he's done a good job in his mind, kind of drawing out game plans that give him a chance to have success tonight and maybe even further into the playoffs.
The interesting thing about the Warriors is you can't have a one-man show, and Michael Jordan proved that for the first 7 years. Steph Curry will go off. Dylan Brooks was on him for the first 10 minutes of that game. He got no points, barely got any points in the first quarter. I think he only had 9, and then he ended up with 49 points on 36 shots. So Steph Curry can get his shots. You're going to have to play like the old book, the Jordan Rules book. You're going to have to play the Curry rules. You have to stop everybody else and let Curry get his 40 or 45 or 50 and go after the other guys. Now, Andrew Wiggins, very underrated Andrew Wiggins, who nobody wanted from Minnesota because Minnesota had a different type of offense and a different type of scheme, and we still don't know what that is based on where the Timberwolves draft every year. That's for sure, because they're in the top 5 every year. So they have no idea what they're doing in terms of talent and draft picks. But Andrew Wiggins has turned into a great one-on-one on-the-ball defender. Draymond Green is one of the best defensive players in history. He slowed down a little bit as well, too. And they had Wiseman in the experiment with that. Looney's come back and played great the last 3 weeks. And then they've got, and then all of a sudden, Jordan Poole, shout out to Christine over there, University of Michigan grad, shout out to Jordan Poole for lighting it up the last few weeks. And he was injured there for a little bit. Now they're going to have to get bench points. Bazemore even, I got a buddy at your station, Charlie, actually in San Francisco, that says that had Ken Bazemore over 12.5 points in one of the end of the regular season games, and he had 10 in the first quarter. You got to get production from that, and it's going to be interesting to see. And Memphis can play defense. Valanciunas, and they can dominate on the boards. Valanciunas can. Dylan Brooks, his energy looked so high in the beginning covering Curry, but you can't stay with Steph Curry. He runs about 5 miles a game, 5 to 8 miles a game, depending on where he goes. And he's like Reggie Miller. And Steph Curry watched Reggie Miller growing up. You can't totally contain him or stop him. You just have to be able to let him get his, not let him get his, but he had 4 guys on him on that one sequence and he still got 49. They were double teaming him the whole way. And they've got to have other guys make those shots because Wiggins came through, Bazemore came through, Jordan Poole came through. Who am I missing? Looney hit a couple of big shots, and even Draymond Green took a couple of threes that I think he made one, which made everybody in the bar I was at fall over because he made one. But that's basically the way it goes. Let me revert back to it's going to be an interesting game. So, what do you think wins tonight, Charlie?
I think it's the Warriors. I do. I think it at the end, I think they'll be too strong for them. But I want to just jump back for a second to Casey's question about Steve Kerr. And Casey, I think the greatest example about how strong of a coach Steve Kerr is Andrew Wiggins. I mean, this is a guy that everybody had thrown on the junk pile. Bust. He's not going to be worth anything. We overrated him. They drafted him too high. We'll just look at him at a bust down the line. And Andrew Wiggins has come to the Warriors and very quietly has worked with a guy who has got a great demeanor, is patient, and all of a sudden now he's starting to blossom. They don't expect him to carry the team, which is what they tried to have him do in Minnesota, and that wasn't his role. And now he's finding a place, and he's scoring and he's blossoming. And when they need to take pressure off of Curry, who do they find? Andrew Wiggins. And and when he comes out, when he does his thing, he's spectacular. And you're going, man, they needed somebody else in there besides Curry. They needed somebody besides Draymond, and they found him. And I think that speaks to who Kerr is as a coach.
I think, Vasu, I could talk myself into both betting the Warriors money line and the Grizzlies plus 4.5 by the time this thing tips off. I really feel like this is a good number that they put out there.
Right. It's been known to happen in the sportsbook for sure. And those that are watching us on the Make the Money and Run podcast, you just learned something. Money adjusts the odds and the over-unders in Vegas. I just want you all to know that, just in case you didn't know that to begin with. So the money's already changed the over-under and the point spread. I'll be interested to see what happens, guys. I have an idea of what I think is going to happen in the game, and we'll get to that in the picks. But let's talk about this real quick before we move on to the other series. Washington. Let me revert back to Washington here for a second. I want to make the point. Indiana boat race Charlotte. That was the other over in the game because Charlotte looked awful on Tuesday. They gave up 145 points to Indiana, and then Indiana goes and gives up 144 points to the Wizards. The Wizards are very dangerous, as Charlie said, as Chuck Barkley said. 59% shooting, 50% from three. Russell Westbrook, a triple-double machine, though he fell 2 rebounds short yesterday. Bradley Beal had 25, and remember at the trading deadline, it was Andrew Wiggins for Bradley Beal on the trade deadline. I think both teams are very happy with where they are with that, and the fact that the Wizards came from 12th or 13th in the East to not only bypass 9-10 to get to 7 and 8, to have a double opportunity to get into the playoffs as they did, really benefits them. It is an extra game, but it really benefited them to go on that streak that they did for 6 weeks. And the point spread, we'll get to the point spreads in a second, but the point spread for the Sixers and the Wizards will reflect that nobody's taking Washington lightly right now as it comes in. And I guarantee that who's the coach for Philadelphia now? Doc Rivers is not taking Washington lightly because he's seen them play this year as the second-year coach in the Eastern Conference. All right, so Vasu Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove here, Charlie O. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's get to the playoffs itself. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference playoffs. Milwaukee, Miami is all set. Brooklyn, Boston's all set. The New York Knicks, who still befuddles me. I know it's 2021 with all the pandemic. The New York Knicks not only went from the dregs of 14th or 15th and Julius Randle coming up. Here they are. They get home court advantage in a series over the Atlanta Hawks as a 4 seed. They're 1 point favorite over Atlanta, 215. And then Philadelphia, we just mentioned, 7-point spread over Washington at 229 the total. I'm kind of liking Washington in that game. I don't know what I just kind of liking Washington. I haven't seen Philadelphia play yet. Obviously, they haven't started yet. Milwaukee just boat raced Miami 2 Saturdays ago by 30 in Milwaukee. So 4.5 seems kind of low to me. Casey, I'm fascinated by the Knicks. I don't know what game's going to be. Is it the Trae Young Atlanta Hawks Motor Speedway Raceway, or is it going to be the tortoise versus the hare with the New York Knicks?
Well, when we're talking about the Knicks, we're talking about your against the spread champion for this year, the best win percentage.
There's got to be a trophy for that.
Yeah, they should get a trophy for that from the gamblers, just maybe like a golden ticket stub or something. But there's trouble brewing already in the Eastern Conference. I agree. I'll start with the Wizards since we were just talking about them. You mentioned 229 is the total in that game and Philadelphia -7. But as a guy who's been preaching bet the Sixers to win the East all year, this was not the first round matchup that I anticipated them having. Probably the one team you wouldn't want to see. And don't forget, it's not unprecedented to see really low seeds win in the playoffs. It's happened many, many times, including before the Warriors became what they are when they did the Dallas Mavericks dirty back when I was living in Las Vegas. I think they were a 7 or an 8 seed in that one, and they ended up picking up a victory. So I think the respect factor for the Sixers gets them that 7-point spread. But as far as just the hot factor, I mean, the Wizards are really, really good. They're scoring at will. And Philadelphia is just a different built team than the Wizards are. So I think they're going to have a chance to kind of really get after each other. Now, with the Knicks, let me see here, series odds. The series odds reflected how much respect that they have for the Hawks. Atlanta's actually favored, at least according to the Sports Betting Dime article I was reading. Well, I'm reading right now, but I found yesterday. Atlanta -115. And the Knicks -105. So basically it's a pick 'em, pal. The one difference is going to be New York restrictions have just eased to the point where they're going to have, I believe, 15,000 fans at the Garden when they had only been allowing 2,000 during the regular season. And you're going to really feel it as a fan. And I love it because I like, even last night, you turn your TV up a little bit. You're like, oh my God, is that actually voices? And I can hear people heckling and getting after each other. That's going to make a difference. And again, Charlie, I'm kind of bummed that it is Hawks-Knicks in the first round because I think I'd be rooting for both these teams against other opponents if they were playing different teams because I just need some fresh blood, for goodness sake. And the Eastern Conference has definitely given us that this year, which is really great for the game.
It really is. And I want to talk about the Knicks for just a second. We talked about them yesterday with Thibodeau and the fact that he's playing a little differently than what he's played at other places, because we think of Thibodeau only as defense. And this team has, been different. As a matter of fact, Randall has become the first Knicks player in history to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a season. That's interesting. However, a stat that I found today from ESPN Sports and Information is the fact that the Knicks, and I didn't realize this, they are first in defense in opponents holding opponents' points per game, field goal percentage, and 3-point field goal percentage.
Wait, say that again fast 3 times.
Okay, no, yeah. But all of a sudden I realized they are this awesome defensive team, and we're not talking about it. So Thibodeau has this team playing this awesome defense, but they're playing so great on offense that we just don't realize that they're this defensive juggernaut that we didn't realize it. So they are more dangerous than we even think they are, and we thought they were pretty dangerous. So it's going to be something to watch.
I'll be interested in the Milwaukee-Miami series because don't you think Milwaukee hasn't forgotten what happened to them in the bubble last year with the Miami Heat? Because everybody had the Lakers-Bucks going into the finals last year with Giannis and LeBron going up against each other. I think Milwaukee will be ready for this series. Miami's been hurt a lot of this year. Tyler Hero has not been the same as he was coming into it. The Brooklyn Nets getting all the money. I know it's New Jersey, and they're the team that everybody's picking as the top team in the futures odds here. 8 points versus Boston. We've talked about Boston all year and how they've struggled with the COVID issues, and Jason Tatum's great, but he says he's still struggling from the after effects of COVID, and the energy level is not there. Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I don't even know what Jaylen Brown's health is going to be. I assume he's going to be back for that. 228, the way the Boston's given up points lately, I got to think that Brooklyn, if they can score like they do, that 228 number for Saturday night would be would be very interesting. And New York and Atlanta, New York's offense is, I don't want to say they're terrible, but they're not very good offensively. Their defense is really good. But they slog the ball up. All you got to do is like pace of play with the Knicks, and their field goal percentage is not great offensively. Their second shots, their three-point shots are not great offensively. They're going to have to rely on defense. They're going to have to do what Memphis is going to have to do on Curry tonight with Trae Young, and not let him shoot 30-footers or get in the range. Atlanta's got some scoring, but they don't play any defense either. 215 might be a little low, but I got a feeling the Knicks are going to come out of the series. And boy, and once again, the Washington Wizards. I mean, check your bingo cards if you knew Alex Len was the starting center for the Washington Wizards and Robin Lopez was his backup, because that's how innocuous the Washington Wizards were this whole year. Everybody knows about Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal and Hachimura because Gonzaga gets a lot of play. But some of the guys that they have off the bench, I mean, 4 guys scored in double figures last night on Indiana, and they did boat race. It was even for about a quarter and a half. And then my 3.5 points really looked like nothing when it got to the second half as the game went. And those that had the over watching Washington play this year flew by that with about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So 229 with probably the best defensive team in the East in Philadelphia. It depends on how well Embiid and Simmons play. Ben Simmons, let's see over under case on Ben Simmons taking a 3-point shot in the playoffs.
probably shaded to the under, I'm guessing.
All right, Vasu Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove, Charlie O, the Make the Money and Run podcast. Let's move on to the Western Conference now. We don't have a line for Utah yet because Utah, the top seed, waiting for Golden State and Memphis. If we were to guess, before we get to the other games here, if it's Golden State, Utah, with the success that Golden State and Utah's had, what do you think a line would be for Golden State, Utah, Casey, as well as a Memphis, Utah line? Game one.
If it's Memphis, I would say it's going to be 9. And if it's Golden State, I think it'll be around 6.5, because you still have to respect the Jazz and what they've done over the course of the year. I have a ton of respect for them. Quinn Snyder arguably could be the coach of the year, although there's plenty of worthy candidates. So I think that Utah is in a position where they're feeling very good about themselves heading into this series. And they're pretty healthy. I mean, because one team I know we'll talk about this later, but just the fact I was reading today that Jamal Murray's just basically out indefinitely. They have no idea if he's even going to be able to play in the playoffs. That's going to really deflate the Denver Nuggets, who are playing against a team you really don't want to play in Portland. But we'll get back to that. I did want to run some numbers by you guys, and then I'll toss it to you here, Chuck. Now, as far as, the big bets on the future, since we're, getting down to it, back in March 9th at William Hill Sportsbook in Laughlin, Nevada, of all places, on the lovely Colorado River.
Let's go.
One
Anywhere
game
that's sports betting, let's go.
He bet the Nets. He put $100,000 on them at plus 250. So that stands to be quite a payday if he's correct there. In New Jersey, no surprise, half the money wagered on the odds to win the title is on the Nets. They've got big bets of $30,000 and $23,000. And Brooklyn has attracted more than double the amount of money as has been bet on any other teams at DraftKings in New Jersey, which is probably like the number 2 sports book now, right behind William Hill down there in Las Vegas. Another thing, Lakers Suns. This is unprecedented. The first time ever that a 7 seed has been this heavy a favorite. They are minus 270 to win that series. And I can't argue with that logic there, Chuck. The series odds are a little hard to bet on in the first round because, you look at Brooklyn, Boston, you have to lay like 1,000 to win 100 on the Nets. But some of these ones that have really tight lines, Denver and Portland, that would not surprise me if we had an upset there. You talk about even the Hawks and Knicks, that minus 115, minus 105. Literally, you might be just as effective flipping a coin or, throwing a dog treat and seeing which way your dog goes, left or right, to pick it to try and get past some of these series. It's not the easiest thing to do, my friend.
Yeah, having the like Jimmy Fallon does for the Super Bowl, having the puppies release the puppies and have the puppies pick. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Talking about the Jazz, some interesting notes on the Jazz. One of the things I think that concerns everybody is the Jazz really don't have that superstar per se. Their leading scorer is Donovan Mitchell. He scores 26.4 points per game. They are the first team to try to make the championship that doesn't have a player in the top 10 in scoring since the Spurs back in 2014. So that's an uphill battle right there. But you also got to remember that this team won 39 of their 52 games that they won by double digits. So they won 75% of their games by double digits. Now that's impressive. I don't care who you are. And then the other thing that this blew me away. They averaged 16.7 3-pointers per game this season. So if they get in trouble and they need to score, they can shoot from behind the arc. So they have the elements there to make it happen when they need to. And I think the other thing that always surprises us about the Jazz is nobody knows anything about the Jazz because we never see the Jazz. Right. They're in the smallest market in the NBA, and we don't see them because they don't attract the big TV audience. Therefore, we don't see them on TNT. We don't see them on ESPN. We don't see them on ABC. So nobody knows anything about them. They don't attract big attention at the books. So we don't know anything about them. So they're kind of the unknown there. And Casey, to your point, I think Quinn Snyder should probably be the coach of the year because this is not something that has happened overnight. He has been building to this for the last 5 seasons, and it's all been paying off.
Don't forget, Quinn Snyder had to repair the relationship between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell during the summer last year before they went to the bubble, because that could have gone completely sideways based on everything that's gone on with that. So is it my internet that's out, or Charlie? No, you guys are there. Okay, I thought I lost my internet here for a second. All right, let's move on to the Western Series. The rest of the Western Series, I cannot figure out the Clippers for the life of me, you guys. Everybody says they've got the bench, they've got the shooting, and then they end up having games where they lose to the Houston Rockets for no reason, and then they end up losing to teams that they should not be losing. What do we make of Dallas and the Dallas Mavericks? A 5-point favorite right now in LA for Game 1, 218.5. The Clippers with their 3-point shooting, they shoot 50% or more on their field goal attempts. And they're pretty successful at it. But Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, you never know what the injury status is with them. And then here's Luka Doncic, who's one technical away from getting suspended with the 16 technical foul. They can't win without him on there. And you don't know what you can get from Porzingis because he's had the history of injury with that foot. What else does Dallas have? Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson off the bench, guys that you don't know who they are, Dorian Finney-Smith, guys like that. Can they keep up with the Clippers, Casey?
Yeah, it's a tale of two teams. You just kind of laid it out. The Clippers went 4-6 down the stretch and only averaged about 108 points, which is well below their season total. Meanwhile, the Mavericks went 7-3 with 116 points. As far as guys you're going to miss if you're the Mavericks, Redick's out with a heel. I mean, it's just an extra scorer, a 3-point guy if you need him. I think that the Clippers are heavy favorites for a reason. I think this team's going to go very deep in the playoffs. They're minus 430, which is a little rich for most of our bloods. I mean, that's a lot of money to lay on against a team that does have a superstar like Doncic. And the Porzingis question is always going to be relevant as well. If you're saying, okay, gun to your head, how long is this series going to take? I would say a maximum of 6 games, Chuck, before the Clippers get it done. I don't know why. I'm not sour on the Mavericks. I've watched them play enough this year, but I'm just a little leery on them. I kind of feel like the Clippers are the better team in this series, and I think they're going to get it done rather quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting, guys. I was just kind of looking at Clippers numbers this year, and one thing that came out that I was surprised about, you think about the Clippers, you think about them being a banger team, bang into the boards. And this year, the Clippers are a team that they have 9 players who have shot their best percentage from behind the arc, and they're over 40%. Marcus Morris is 47. Kennard is at 44. Reggie Jackson at 43. Rondo's at 43. DeMarcus Cousins is at 42. And I know people go, wait a minute, DeMarcus Cousins? Cousins is dangerous from the 3-point line. I watched him for years do that. Paul George is at 41. Kawhi Leonard's at 39, so he's right there. So this is a team all of a sudden that's changing themselves. They can still bang, but they can shoot from behind the 3-point arc. So all of a sudden you go, okay, now, okay, you got Porzingis, who can shoot three. So now you look at that and you go, maybe they can put those guys away quickly. I think you make a good point. Dallas may be in real trouble. And if Porzingis goes down or if they miss him, when he goes out of that starting five, they're toast. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's crazy. When he goes out of the starting five, they just collapse. They need him so badly in that starting five. It's just crazy. So Luka can carry a lot of things, but he can't carry that starting five without Porzingis in there. So
I wanted to point out too, guys, that we've got another case here, Vasu, and I'm sure you could talk a little bit about why the Mavericks might have a shot. We've got another case of a team that's better away from home than they were at home. They're 21-15 on the road, are the Mavericks, so a little bit road tested. I just feel like the Clippers are the better team here, but I'm sure you can make a case for the Mavericks keeping it competitive.
I can make a case for anybody based on who plays defense this year, watching this crappy defense all year. Absolutely. I can make a case for anybody who's going to play defense in the playoffs. We said it all year. And I know last year was a one-off, and it looked like a gym that they were all shooting in with the depth perception and everything. It just it befuddles me. If Dallas gets hot, Hardaway Jr. can shoot. He comes off the bench well. Brunson plays well. Porzingis can shoot deep. Doncic, we know what Doncic can do. They've got guys that can score in there. Dwight Powell out of Stanford. Dwight Powell can play on the inside, and he can bang bodies as well too. Sorry about that, guys. That was a phone call. All right. Anyway, the fact is Denver, and let's talk about the other two series right now. Denver, hang on one second, guys. Go ahead and talk for a second, guys.
Well, okay. We'll talk about those other two series while you attend to your birthday business there. Chuck,
Casey, let me just jump in here for a second. I found that stat. When Doncic, Richardson, Finney-Smith, Porzingis, and Kleber are together, they played 281 minutes together this season. They outscored their opponents by 70 points. So there you go.
Well, as we look at the Trailblazers-Nuggets series, I mean, I've got a buddy who lives in Colorado, and he is a diehard, I believe this is our year type guy. But as soon as I read that Jamal Murray news, where not only are they saying, Chuck, that he's not available for tonight, perhaps this series, maybe the rest of the playoffs, I cannot buy into them. And you look at the way that the Trailblazers just came down the stretch, 10-5, Lillard's clicking, they're distributing the ball well, they can shoot it from all over the court. This one feels to me, if you're saying pick one series, it's going to go to 7, Charlie. This is the one I'm probably going to ride with because I really feel like Portland could probably win this thing outright. The odds reflected, as I mentioned, the Trailblazers are actually -115 favorites in this one. Denver's -105, despite having the home court advantage. So that's a little bit, I got to be careful with that one. And I think this one is probably going to go the distance.
Yeah, this is a scary series. I would be careful with your money here, because this is going to be about health, and it's going to be about the health of the Nuggets, because Portland is one of those teams that will take advantage of another team's weakness, and if the Nuggets get hurt, they're going to get in trouble quickly because Portland will take advantage of another team's weakness, no doubt about it.
Let's talk about the Lakers and Phoenix. Very interesting 2-7 matchup. It's not your typical 2-7 matchup. Phoenix a 2.5-point favorite in game one. The total very low. Maybe double take again. 212.5 the total for Phoenix. I still think Chris Paul's not getting enough love as an MVP candidate. Now LeBron James is back. Anthony Davis is back. They've got Kuzma. He's shooting the ball better. The way they played against the Warriors the other night, they're going to have to play a lot better to get by Phoenix, and it's going to be very disappointing if this team can't go past this first round. Granted, Phoenix is a very good team, but I don't know. Maybe I'm talking as a fan right now, but the Lakers just seem to be overall the better talent than Phoenix can play right now. So I just think that the Lakers are going to end up winning this series in 6 or 7 games, and they probably will win a road game at some point. And I don't know if the Phoenix team can shoot well enough with that Lakers defense. The Lakers, number one defense against three-point field goal shooting percentages. They have the lowest percentage of three-point field goals made on defense, and I think that's a big thing, especially in today's NBA case. Lakers, Phoenix, your thoughts? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry. Hang on. You're muted. Hang on.
So there's a reason why the Lakers are still the number 2 pick on the board, with a healthy margin ahead of the Phoenix Suns, by the way. Phoenix gets you 18-1 right now if you walk down to the book to win the title. The Lakers are plus 375, and I have a feeling that might even drop more. I already said that it's unprecedented as far as how heavy a favorite they are as a 7 seed, minus 270. And I feel like, I don't want to say they toyed with the Warriors because the Warriors really locked them down on defense, but maybe they can garner something from that as far as their game strategy against the Suns. Now, you guys know I love my Phoenix Suns. I jumped on the bandwagon before the bubble last year when they won those 7 games in a row and narrowly missed the playoffs. But if I'm down in the desert, this is an absolutely disastrous scenario being the number 2 seed, having to take on the defending champions who probably haven't played their best basketball in quite some time and really haven't played as a full 5-person unit in quite some time either. One thing I think, Chuck, might be a bit of a difference is the Lakers have got to get more out of Schroeder. Now, he doesn't have to be a star, but he did not play very well in that game. That's part of the reason why the Warriors were able to hang around. Devin Booker's going to get his. I mean, this guy is magnificent, an amazing player. Ayton's really stepped up his game, and you can't say enough about the leadership that Chris Paul will bring as far as calming him and saying, forget that Laker and the LA thing on the front. These are just guys. We've played them well this season, and we're looking forward to the challenge. So I think both teams come in playing pretty darn good basketball. Lakers are on a 5-game win streak. Suns have won 3 out of their last 5. But I am kind of bummed as a guy who wanted to see Phoenix hang around for a while. I just have a feeling they're not going to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, guys, I saw this again from ESPN. They were projecting the path for the Lakers to the finals, and this was their projected path. Obviously, the Suns, who have a 708 winning percentage, then conference semis through the Nuggets. They were projecting that they think the Nuggets will win that series. We have a 653 win percentage. Then conference finals through the Jazz, who have a 722 win percentage. And then their projection was the finals versus the Sixers with a 681 win percentage. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, that would be awesome to see that. Now, back to the Suns. I love the Suns. I love Chris Paul. I love Booker. I mean, they're such a fun team. They made the bubble so interesting, and I would love to see them go deeper in the playoffs. They're not. The other night, if the Lakers were going to fold, they would have folded in that game the other night against Golden State, because they got down early in that first half. And it would have been very easy for that team to say, okay, we're just going to back off. We know we can win the next game, and we'll just back off, and then we'll take our chances against Utah. They were smart enough to know that they didn't want to have to expend the energy against Utah in that first round. Right. And they came back and they played, and LeBron gave that Academy Award performance of getting poked in the eye. I mean, oh my gosh, come on, LeBron. I still love you. I think you're the greatest, but come on, that was a little much. But
Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove.
And then he just nails that 3-pointer. I mean, I can't.
With one eye.
One eye, my butt. I watched that replay, 4 or 5 times, and you see the shot, you hear the buzzer, and you're going, pure talent. He knew where that clock was the whole time. I mean, that's just awesome. Just
no doubt about it.
As much it's not going to be a sweep, for God's sake, but they're going to win. They're going to win, and I'm going to be so heartbroken that the Suns are going to be over so soon. But I cannot see the Lakers losing that series.
All right, Vasu Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove, Charlie O. We're going to take a break here. Just let me give a little hockey update. By the way, if you can't tell, we're awfully excited about the NBA playoffs. That's why we spent 45 minutes on the NBA right now. We have very little time to talk baseball. Take a break, but real quick, I just want to go through the NHL odds because there have been a lot of good games. Boston 155 over Washington. Every game's gone to overtime in that series. Carolina looks like they're going to drop up on Nashville. They're $1.35 road favorite at Nashville, 5.5. They're up 2-0. Edmonton and Winnipeg. Winnipeg 1-0 the series. That's a big underdog sweep. If you think Winnipeg will win on the road, take them tonight at $1.45, 5.5 the total there. Colorado looks like the best team in the NHL, definitely in the Western Conference. 2:30 at St. Louis. Poor St. Louis Blues fans probably looking at a sweep, 5.5 the total there. Colorado up 2-0. The PGA update. Phil Mickelson -5, bringing back the old days. Guys our age sowing their oats a little bit. And then Grace, Benzenheit, and Oosthuizen tied for second at -3 as of the last update. All right, we're going to take 30 seconds, come back, talk baseball. Big series going on this weekend in Major League Baseball. You can catch us Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays right here on Facebook and YouTube. Back in 30 seconds with the Make the Money and Run podcast. Welcome back. Vasu Vaddiparty, Casey Freelove, the Make the Money and Run podcast. We've got limited time here, so let's hit the Major League Baseball notes real quick here before we get to picks. Real big series, obviously, in San Francisco where we live. I'm just going to put the odds up right here for us so we can just go through the games. Series I'm looking at this weekend, don't underestimate the Pittsburgh Pirates. Atlanta's struggling a little bit, and they lost to Pittsburgh yesterday. Colorado, Arizona, Marquez, and Francoff. St. Louis, one of the best records in the National League, but they're getting no respect. I think Carlos Martinez has a lot to do with that there. And then, of course, the game of the night in the National League in San Francisco. Trevor Bauer, who got moved one day back, versus Alex Wood, who's 5-0 with a sub-2 ERA, about 1.75. You guys want to guess which game I'm most interested in this, Casey?
Well, it's your birthday, so I think you'd love nothing better than Bauer to give you a birthday boy victory, even though you are in Giants territory. That's what's so fun about being your friend. You're in enemy territory, rooting for the team that everybody around you hates, yet you make your money going with the other team.
Can I just say one thing to that? I tell people all the time, I like the Giants team, and I like the way they played, and I'm the one who backed them with their good defense and their starting pitching, and they're in rhythm, and they're playing well, and it's good to see. I say every year, and everybody, and you guys know me well enough to know this, I go, if the Giants go 143-19 and all 19 are against LA, I root for the Giants, but not this weekend. So come at me, Giants fans. mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. Anywhere on my social media you can find it. Let's go Dodgers. But you know what? I'm not going to bet on the game because I actually think Alex Wood is pitching well, and as a home underdog with the way they're playing right now, that's a tough bet to take the Dodgers right now, Casey.
Yeah, and the thing is the Giants, 11-7 against teams not named LA in the division. The Dodgers 13-5 against the NL West, so they've actually done a good job against their division. Now, obviously, we all realize that there's a lot of Colorado Rockies sprinkled across what I just read to you guys, and that kind of changes things because they're not a very good team. San Diego's underachieved a little bit, and I think we put plenty of praise on the Giants, and rightly so this year, Chuck. I did not have them anywhere near the best record in baseball. I had them as the third best team in their division and probably not making the playoffs. And again, it is a very long season. And Trevor Bauer is a great pitcher. He's a fun Twitter follow, that's for sure. He's an interesting dude. We'll just say that. He's always been an interesting fella. And then Alex Wood, I mean, just amazing at 5-0. Giants are playing well. And here's the weird thing, Chuck, and you could speak to this. They're 8-2 in their last 10, but only a .235 batting average, which tells me their pitching and their defense is playing at a very high level to be able to continue to pile up victories, especially coming off the road like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that we talked about yesterday is the one thing they really did do in their last 4 games is they took advantage of being in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We talked about that going into that series is that Great American Ballpark is a bandbox. And if you swing for the fences there, you will go out of the fences. And they did it. I mean, yesterday they scored the most runs scored in the major leagues this season. And they swung out of their shoes and it paid off. So they took advantage of that. Now they won't be able to do that at home because a lot of those home runs they hit would be fly ball outs at Oracle. So that's what they're going to have to adjust to, and they're going to have to go back, use their pitching, their defense, do more of their timely hitting, kind of things and base running in this one, but it'll be interesting. But guys, it's very interesting odds wise when you look at this right now. They're still not showing any love to the Giants. I mean, the Giants are still plus 5,000 to win the World Series. They're plus 1,400 to win the division, while the Dodgers are minus 280 to win the division and plus 330 to win the World Series. So as far as the people laying down their money, nobody's showing any respect to the Giants at this point. They're saying, you got to prove it. You got to prove it over the long haul. And that's true. I mean, until you really get past the All-Star game, which we know is really not the halfway mark in baseball. It's beyond the halfway mark. But until you get past the All-Star game, I don't think anybody's going to believe that this Giants team is for real.
Giants got to hit better for better batting average. Their clutch hitting is really done well. The power hitting has come back. Speaking of birthdays and fountain of youth, how about Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey, and Brandon Belt all hitting the snot out of the ball this year, and that's definitely helped. And that defense has shown this year with Posey being an MVP candidate. Brandon Crawford has jumped himself up there with 10 home runs. Who would have thought that? Remember 3 years ago, Casey, when we were doing your show locally up there in Sacramento, up there in Auburn? Why is Crawford, Belt, and Posey still on the team?
Yeah. We've had that conversation.
Here's where they are. By the way, one stat about the Reds by the way, Charlie sounded very Belichickian when he said on to Cincinnati. Don't you think the Giants were very much looking forward to get to Cincinnati after they were in Pittsburgh, and they showed up there with the 19 runs. Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark, Casey, since 2003, has yielded the most home runs, even Colorado, in that time the ballpark is open. So we knew that. I knew Alex Wood was going to be better as soon as he got out of Cincinnati. I knew DeSclafani was going to be better outside of Cincinnati, and he pitched great in Cincinnati the other night. So they're a problem. And I said, Giants fans, I'm telling you again, I said at the beginning of the year, this team is not bad. I'm not sold on the Padres. They will compete with the Padres, but I'm still a Dodgers fan on my birthday. So back off. All right, let's move on to the American. A little feisty here today. I don't know what's going on with me. All right. American League.
It's the hangover.
Yeah, well, you have yet to see one. Trust me. All right, American League games before we get into my personal life. Our American League games are Yankees White Sox, a big series to me this weekend. White Sox in the 70s in run differential. They're hitting the crap out of the ball, Casey. Jordan Montgomery, after Garrett Cole and Corey Kluber, who threw another no-hitter. Not that we should be surprised about no-hitters anymore. They're happening like we get up and eat breakfast every day, it seems like. But Montgomery, 108, and I don't have the total. 8 is the total. Carlos Rodon, who has one of the no-hitters today. After Cole and Kluber, and even Corey Kluber hasn't been that great, their starting pitching is not very good. They don't have a bullpen to get to Chapman. And here comes the Chicago White Sox, the big bad Chicago White Sox, just hitting the baseball like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it, Herman and Montgomery and what, Talon? I mean, no, yeah. That's not the recipe for a World Series championship, but I will tell you this, sparks are going to fly, and I think this kid has a potential to be 3 overs this weekend. Literally, one of my plays there, which we'll have in a minute, is over in that game. I think is going to be a very exciting litmus test type series, and since we're running out of time, the other one that is very intriguing is also in the East there, Chuck, with the Rays and the Blue Jays. So either one of those are kind of good feelers for teams that are very talented, have above 500 records, and are hungry. I'm excited for this weekend.
Oh yeah, there's some great baseball going on right now. The Yankees resurgence is very interesting, and it's being led by Aaron Judge. And the thing that's got to be exciting if you're a Yankees fan is that Aaron Judge right now is showing health. You know, it's been a little scary as a Yankees fan to watch Judge, and I'm not a Yankees fan, but I'm talking about Yankees fans. But I am a huge Aaron Judge fan. It's been a little scary for them because Judge has had a lot of nagging injuries, and so far this season he is showing health, and he is really starting to that when he's healthy, the Yankees are healthy, and right now he is leading that charge for them. And man, I'm telling you, a healthy Aaron Judge means a healthy Yankees team. And you're right. Rays and Blue Jays this week, and in a battle of Florida, for heaven's sakes. That's that's got to be fun because what is it? An hour and a half from from Tampa over to where they're playing. Yeah. So that's gonna be huge. What a fun weekend that's gonna be.
All right, before we get to picks here real quick, I just wanted to notice that there was a pitching change in Miami. John Curtis against Marcus Stroman that changed the odds a little bit for the Mets in the last American League game that wasn't on the previous screen. Is this James Caprillion? Great story. Talk about him on Monday versus Quintana and the Mike Troutless Angels, but Ohtani doing great things. And too bad they're not getting on national TV. All right, Casey, let's start off. Our pick segment, not sponsored by anybody yet, although I was really pushing for Fireball yesterday after Wednesday night. So go ahead, Casey.
Fireball, come on.
Yeah, come on, Fireball.
We all make bets when we're drinking. So let's go, Fireball.
All right, so I'm Warriors money line. I would lay the 210 comfortably. I'd be willing to go up to $1,000 on that, or 1040 to win back a few bucks. Yankees and White Sox over 8.5. I expect. Actually, I see it at 8 too. You can look for that.
Yeah, we'll give you 8.
So that is going to be a high scoring series. I feel all weekend, especially if they come to play. Padres tonight have a nice matchup, and they're starting to play better. They're at home. They've got Paddock on the mound, who's looking to right the ship a little bit. And the Mariners, they're 9-11 away from home. They're the Mariners. I think they're going to lose by a bunch. Give me the run line. One series pick, and this is more for fun because you're not actually going to go lay $430 like a madman. But my strongest pick is that the Clippers will eliminate the Mavericks rather quickly, guys.
Go ahead, Charlie.
All right, my picks. I am going to go the over in tonight's game between Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I'm going to take the over 9. It's nighttime in Cincinnati, and the ball flies.
We're on to Cincinnati. Go ahead.
There we go, baby. Listen to the weatherman. Listen to the weatherman. Nighttime Cincinnati, the ball flies. Okay. In the Memphis Warriors game tonight, I'm going over, baby. I think they're going to be running up and down the court. So I'm taking the over in that 221.5. And then in the game tonight, I'm going to take Oakland minus 105 against the Angels because the A's have a better road record than they do at home.
Casey, one quick A's thing here. Give me like 30 seconds. What are the A's doing so well that they're winning?
Well, the thing is, and they pointed it out in the post game, they crank the ball out of the park. But the thing is, they stink at just getting basic singles and moving guys around the bases. It's feast or famine, and they've been lucky in the fact that they've been able to hit timely home runs against the teams they're playing. But I think this team, even though they've got a great record, and I'm a fan, they've got a lot of work to do. I mean, Charlie and I could probably spend 20 minutes on the feast or famine aspect because this has been the case, Vasu, for years and years and years, and it always shows up in the playoffs where all you need to do is dink and dunk and move guys around. The A's are dependent so much on hitting the ball out of the park that it's really affected them. I say that, though, as they sit at 26-19. Problem is, guess who else is going to be in the playoffs, guys? The Houston freaking Astros, the bane of the Oakland existence, a team that will beat them if they meet up in the postseason.
No doubt. All right, my picks for the day as we wind up the last 2 minutes. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Download and subscribe anywhere. I appreciate all the birthday comments as well, too. Cleveland Indians, 126. White Sox, 102. Kansas City Royals, 160. And the Oakland A's, I got them at plus 100, even money. I'm going against Charlie on this game. I think last Sunday's game more of an indicator. Golden State, Memphis, under 221. And then for Saturday over the weekend, the Bucks minus 4.5. Portland plus 1. Lakers, Phoenix, under 212.5. Brooklyn, Boston, over 228. In hockey, Carolina and Tampa Bay, my 2 teams I'm going with, and I never lose on my birthday. I think I'm 8 years in a row in profit on my birthday. I want to thank Charlie O, Casey Freelove, Make the Money and Run podcast Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, 4:15 Eastern. You miss any of the live broadcasts, which you shouldn't because we get our picks, and right now we're hot, as it's indicated. Check us out every Monday, Thursday, and Friday, or download and subscribe anywhere you get it. Again, thank you so much to everybody for all the nice comments today. That really meant a lot and that got me through the show. You guys, I can't do the show without you, so I appreciate you spending my birthday with me doing the show. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, the basketball, the baseball, and even some hockey, probably some golf too, the lounge chairs, whatever you got. I got Giants Dodgers this weekend, so I'll be a little busy in between shots and Modelo's. I shouldn't say Modelo either. Modelo, sponsor us. Okay, anyway, that's about it. All right. Charlie O, Casey Freelove, Vasu Vaddiparty, Make the Money and Run podcast for May 21st, 2021. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday, 4:15. Take care, everybody.
Happy birthday. Woo!